Asking the right questions is a challenging task, especially when you do not want to impose your own opinion onto the person or team you are talking to. Great coaching questions are open-ended, non-judging, and help foster new ideas and visions about possibilities. These kind of questions are called powerful questions. There are several approaches to creating powerful questions. They depend on which coaching school you are coming from. One approach is to practice a deck of questions until you know them by heart, which helps you choose the right one in a given situation. Another approach is to learn a strategy for designing the right questions as needed. One such strategy that I have found works particularly well with both individuals and teams is based on a model developed by Canadian psychologist Carl Thom. The Carl Thom approach has its roots in systemic theory. It encapsulates circularity in the understanding that each of us has a different perspective of the facts in a given situation, and is entitled to that view. No one has monopoly on the truth. Indeed, different people can have very different perspectives, and hence different understandings of what is happening and why. The model shows two dimensions. Time is shown on the horizontal axis as the past and the future. On the vertical axis we can find simple, what is obvious, evident, linear, and complex, what is non-evident, multipath, circular. While time should be easy to understand, the concept of simplicity versus complexity may require a bit of explanation. In a simple and linear world, there is little room for doubt. Cause and effect relations are easy to see and everybody can correctly predict the result of any given action. In the complex world, however, you generally can't draw a straight line from cause to effect. There can be multiple interacting causes, not all of them visible. There may also be circular cause and effect chains of different lengths, for example vicious loops and virtuous cycles. In a complex circular world, people may have quite different interpretations of why something happened the way it did, and sometimes even different opinions on what exactly happened. Powerful questions are anchored in all four quadrants of Carl Thom's model. The powerful questions can be aimed either at what has already happened, past-oriented, or at what could happen, future-oriented. The powerful questions can also be designed on the presumption that there is one and only one truth, linear questions, or so that they acknowledge the diversity in our understanding of the truth, circular questions. When we ask questions that are past-oriented and linear, we ask questions like a detective in an interrogation, for example. What happened then? What kind of velocity did you have before that? When did it happen? How did it work out? Was it the PO or the customer? As a detective, we are looking for facts that help us understand the issue. Remember that facts are undisputable. Something either happened or it did not happen. All kinds of data, statistics, recordings, diaries, blog posts, emails, etc. are welcome. But even when people are in the same place at the same time, they often end up with different observations. Memories have a tendency to evaporate over time. People fill in with assumptions when they don't have all the facts. This means that people can have very different interpretations of various events. Hidden assumptions are a major source of conflict, and unearthing them can help immensely. When we ask questions that are past-oriented and circular, we ask questions like an anthropologist doing research. We are looking for intentions and expanding our understanding of the intentions. For example, we could ask, what do you think was their motivation to do so? From which point of view could her action make sense? Could it be that they knew something that the rest of you did not? What could it be? Do you think she saw this as a problem at all? Future-oriented circular questions, lower right, are intended to explore opportunities and different scenarios and expand possibilities. Here we ask questions like a future researcher, such as, what could you do to make things better? Is there something you could do to prevent this from happening in the future? Can you see a possible solution to this problem? It can also be useful to apply appreciative inquiry and heliotropism to explore a positive and compelling future, rather than focus on the problems and issues. One trick is to ask a miracle question, something that suggests that a miracle has happened overnight. If you get into work tomorrow and the problem has unexpectedly disappeared, how would you notice that? One day when you have solved this matter and look back on this period in time, which decisions did you make that made a difference? Questions in this future-oriented, circular category might seem a bit strange at first, but give it a try. The advantage of questions like this is that they disconnect the person or team in front of you from the constrained situation they are currently in. They free up energy to see new perspectives and decide on new courses of action based on those perspectives. They help the person or team to see which part of the miracle or the desired future are already present today, and how they can be used as stepping stones towards the goal. Finally, we can ask simple or linear future-oriented questions. These are the kind of questions that a captain would ask. They are more direct and practical, defining the next steps for the desired change. What is the first thing you are going to do now? Who do you need to talk to in order to move this forward? How can he or she help you? How will I know that you have done this? Like at the end of retrospective, this is where specific tasks are defined and prepared for action. As the coach, your role is to ensure that the tasks are clear and simple, but also that the coachee takes responsibility. When coaching someone, we are mostly looking at the future and the change we are going to make. However, from time to time, we must look back into the past to understand what has happened and why we are in the current situation. It is like driving a car. We are mostly looking out the windshield at the traffic in front of us, but from time to time we also need to look in the rearview mirrors to know what is behind us. There is no specific route you must follow when using Carl Tom's discussion model. I have found that most of my coaching conversations tend to start in the detective dimension. Moving on to the perspective of an anthropologist, then investigate as the future researcher, and finally ending up as the captain. This is the order in which I introduce the quadrants in this section. You can imagine drawing the letter U over the figure, starting from the upper left. The path is not necessarily linear though. On your way, you can jump back and forth as intuition tells you. You have already learned about conversation flow, active listening, and identifying keywords. You are now adding powerful questions to your toolbox of coaching skills. Asking powerful questions is a valuable coaching skill, and one that can be improved with practice. When first exposed to powerful questions, your coachee or team members might think, "What the heck is this guy up to?" Especially questions from the anthropologist's perspective are usually grounded in the belief that behind any action, there are good intentions. Not everybody believes in this postulate, and we must admit that I also regularly have to remind myself about it. Nevertheless, taking this approach will let you help people reflect as well as help solving conflicts. Based on the prime directive of retrospectives by Norman Kurth, you may also find it useful to remember that in any given situation, people try to do the best they can with the information and tools they have. While powerful questions are useful, they are not a silver bullet. For example, I sometimes run across individuals or teams that feel powerless, suppressed, oppressed, or victimized. They may be stuck complaining about the past and refuse to move on to imagining a future. Yes, I tried something like that 4 years ago and it didn't work. There are strategies for dealing with such people, such as arranging a quick win in some area just to show that change can indeed happen, or enlisting managers to help, although often the managers are part of the problem.